let's start by presenting who you are, who's AudioKit, and then let's build from that.
Well, hey everyone, and thank you, Luke. It's an honor to be here. You're an amazing sound designer, and I'm sure an amazing professor, and the students are very lucky to have you. So it's really an honor to be here. My name is Matthew Fecher, and I am a featured Apple developer and one of the co-founders of AudioKit Pro. We create building blocks that help you make music apps, and it powers probably about 100 million downloads in the App Store, from music production apps to like apps by Disney and McDonald's to all kinds of apps. So music programming is super, super hard. And like even I struggle with it every day. What we do is provide free building blocks like reverbs, filters, oscillators. Kind of like if you're building a house, you get pre-made sinks and cabinets and don't have to go out and cut down the trees and build the lumber yourself. We make it so you can actually easily make your own apps. And then you don't have to pay us anything. It's completely open source. You can think of it as remix culture for code, and you can make $1 million, sell your apps, and it's all yours. So that's basically what we do.
If it's that easy.
Well, I don't want to say it's easy. We just make it easier because, someone could spend a year working on like a reverb algorithm, or they could just use a pre-made component. Like if anyone's ever used Reactor or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
On top of that, I also make music apps. I'm creator of a completely open source synthesizer called Synth One, which I believe is now the most popular synthesizer for iPad and iPhone of all time. And also we have a new series of 10 limited edition apps, as you mentioned on your station, that we're working on as well. So it's exciting.
And honestly, Synth One was a super big surprise when I saw it the first time. Remember, you reached out to me to test it out, and I was amazed of what it could do, and it was free. It was like, okay, what's the catch? I didn't get it. At the same time, it was fun, but at the same time, like, why is it free? How can you make it free?
Yeah, I mean, just because you can charge for something doesn't mean you always have to. And I feel like people are trying to take advantage of musicians. And, it's just my opportunity to give back. And I was learning how to make a synthesizer, and I didn't expect it to be good. And I couldn't find any code online. So it's like, I'm going to build a synthesizer and make it free and open source. And more talented people got involved. Like one of the product managers for Ableton is really heavily involved. So we have all these talented, genius people all volunteering their time to help musicians. And there's so many musicians who don't have a credit card, and they have iPads through schools or other charity groups, and now they have a chance to make professional synthesizer music or learn synthesis. And we actually have like a new book coming out by Francis Prev. He is one of the editors of Electronic Musician Magazine, a great sound designer, and it's going to be a completely free book on learning synthesis using Synth One, so we can help educate even more people now.
That's cool. Very good. You always talk about a lot of people participating, but I mean, I'm guessing they're not all in the same company. They're just like they're part of the projects.
Right. So it's not really so much a company as it is an open source project. And I would say as far as people that actually give code back, maybe like 100 regular people, but there's a lot of people that take code as well. I mean, there's a lot of apps in the App Store that I think people would be surprised are using our code. And we're happy to help, even if they don't have the time or energy to give anything back, because apps make so little money that you have to actually really be passionate about it to want to make music apps. It's a labor of love. No one's getting rich anymore. I think now, I was looking yesterday, it only takes about 5 copies to break in the top 10 music apps in the US, selling 5 copies in a day. So that could be like $10,
Okay.
Yeah, so it's definitely a labor of love. People aren't getting rich.
So AudioKit came out with many different apps, some free, some for cost. Can you talk about the different wide offer that you guys have today?
Yeah, so the reason some of them are paid is, like I said, like all these other apps that use our code, they don't really pay AudioKit anything, and then it's become very expensive to even keep Synth One going. because I think our mailing list right now is like 140,000 people. And you can
Wow.
imagine, and just like other dependent systems, once you're at that scale with millions of users, things become very costly. And, the people who want the bills paid don't care if you're an open source project. So the money from those apps goes to just maintain the operating costs. And AudioKit runs really, really lean.
Okay.
So none of us take a salary or anything.
So what are the apps that, outside of Synth One, the others are?
Okay, so our big one is Digital D1, which is kind of inspired by the Roland D50. So it's a combination of synthesis and samples. And it doesn't sample a D50, it samples the synths that sampled. So we went through the same process that they did, making it, of LA synthesis, of sampling the old 70s keyboards and the DX7 to kind of create a facsimile. And then our latest app is the Bass 808, which is kind of like a kick drum bass creator, which you featured on your channel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a really big hit in the community. And I think it was like #1 in 30 countries. So that's been really exciting.
But this one has a different approach for marketing purposes. I mean, this one is going to be a limited edition. And that part was unclear for me when you first explained that it was. So how does that work? I mean, limited edition software? What is that?
Yeah, so this has actually been like a dream of mine since I first made Synth One. And there's like, they only made 2,800 copies of the Jupiter 8. So there was only less than 3,000 of those synths in the entire world, and it changed music forever. And it's like, what if we create something that's a musical instrument or has a workflow and inspires people? And then that will help people have something unique about their music. Musicians are always looking for something unique. And if everyone has, with Synth One, it's great. You can have 1 million people with the same synth, but what if only like 5,000 people had a synth? What could they create, and how would their music be unique? And at the same time, I wanted to make it inclusive for everyone. So we're trying to have a price point under $5, and and if people are really, really upset that they can't get a copy, they can always email me. I don't want it to be completely exclusive. But at the same time, I want to build something that is cool for musicians. And because AudioKit doesn't have to turn a profit, we can do these things. Whereas an app's probably not going to break even in just a few weeks. But since we don't have to make money, we could do these cool things, and hopefully they pay for themselves. So.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's an interesting approach. And I like the fact that when I talk with people that are using software, often they say that they need hardware just to have a sound that nobody else has. Because software, everybody has the same plugins. At one point, if you don't tweak your own sound, everybody sounds the same. So having a kind of exclusivity or a limited edition of a software is a little bit like having some limited. Hardware is always limited. They don't make them forever. Any hardware has a limited amount of copies, whereas software, you could have unlimited, basically. So yeah, I like the approach because it creates this uniqueness that you have on hardware. So.
Yeah, and so we've got actually some partnerships with some like cool people in the music tech scene coming up, and the fact that it's limited means they can do it because they were worried about this product competing with products they already have out. And so if it's only available for like 4 weeks, then they can make this special edition and be a part of this, unique app.
Okay.
That's cool. And when it comes to competition, I believe we're all in this together. Like, I always promote other people's synths, other people's iOS apps. Every time we can elevate iOS music, we're helping everyone. I really don't believe there's any competition. In fact, like developers, like we have a Slack group of probably like 300 different audio developers. Like almost everyone on the audio charts, all the apps you've reviewed, I think have been on there. Like Alex, who you interviewed last week, he's in our group. We shared this video that you made. But it's mutually beneficial, and everyone helps each other. We don't have the sense of competition. We're all sharing code. We're all helping each other with each other's apps. And we want to make sure that we create cool instruments for the users.
That's cool. Let me ask you how you come up with the ideas of the different apps. Because for me, it's really important to understand the mindset of the maker, and that's true also for hardware, because it helps us understand the limits and how a machine or a software works. Because sometimes people go, "Why it doesn't do this?" Yeah, but if you understand why it was made, you understand why it doesn't do that, because it wasn't part of the plan. There was a reason behind it. So how do you decide, like, for Synth One, for D1, for the sub bass 808, how do you decide what to put in and what not to put in, and like why now a sub bass and not a, I don't know, a lead mono synth?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question, and I think constraints are super important, especially if people are watching who want to become new developers. Synth One's a case where it just kind of got bloated, and it took years and years to get it out. Versus if you're a new developer, I would think about like what's the features you want, and then cut them in half. Think about the most important features, and concentrate on those. And I think a lot of like busy producers, they just want to like pull something up and get a sound right away, or not have to like figure out how to learn things as much, and they just want it to sound good. And so, especially like with Bass 808, we're thinking about this whole series of like what's one thing that you can do and have it sound good and have all the controls you need. Because I think workflow is everything, especially for working producers, because everyone's under tight deadlines, and you've got to deliver the sounds. So, like, we've been working with like some big producer business. It's got Grammy wins and 6 nominations, and we're actually working on a cool new app with him coming out next month. And he's like been very influential to me, and just saying like, this is how a real producer works, and this is what I need. And so it's caused me to like really scale back on features, and I believe that makes the app better. From what we see with Bass 808, it's just what people wanted. They don't have to dive through a bunch of menus. They just want a few knobs to get the sound they need. So that might be the future of iOS music. Small utilities that do one thing very well.
Well, it's a little bit of what I personally use a lot of Gadget from Chord.
Okay.
And those who don't like it, they tell me, well, the gadgets are limited. They're small and aimed at one thing. And like, this one doesn't have an envelope. This one doesn't have this. Well, yeah, but at the same time, that's exactly what, when you know these different tools and you say, I want to have this sound, you know which one to pick. I'm going to load that one. I'm going to have bass. Now I can just tweak a little bit, but I have bass. I want to have a lead. I'm going to load another one. That's for lead. I want a drum. So in that logic, I think it helps a lot when you know that all these little objects you can use, they kind of they have their forces. They have their strength. You're going to go take these, and they're going to be quick with that because they already aim to have that sound.
Right, and that way you can let the software get out of the way and focus on your creativity and songwriting.
Yeah. Your implication in the iOS world is wider than just these tools. I mean, you even talked about Disney and McDonald's, and so tell us about the whole picture.
Okay. So I'll show you some cool things going on in the iOS plan, if I can share my screen right here. So AudioKit, it's open source language toolkit. And of course, I'm the creator of Synth One, which I believe it was lucky enough to be app of the day. And I've actually done interviews and like been featured on like everyone's iPhone or iPad in Japan. That's kind of a funny screenshot from there. So I'm big in Japan, but nowhere else.
You're big in Atlanta, I guess.
I don't know about that. But we were also very blessed. They installed Synth One in all the iPads and Apple stores in North America last year. So people can go in and play with Synth One and check it out. And I think we might be the only third-party developer to have the apps like pre-installed in the App Store.
That's really nice.
And so this is a fellow named Bosco Conte, and he's a Grammy-winning producer, and he just created this app with AudioKit that's a modern take on the new TalkBox. So I'll show you guys this.
I want to thank you for coming out the jam with Electro. spit it just plays right now.
And it's crazy, he actually used that on Bruno Mars's 24 Karat Gold. So every time you hear that on the radio, that was made with an iOS app.
So it's the microphone goes into it?
I'll show you more about this, because this is really cool. It's going to blow people's minds.
I'm about to perform with Kanye West at the American Music Awards. It was my first time on national television. I found out I'm gonna have to lip sync because I'm playing TalkBox and TalkBox is too cumbersome. Right then and there I knew I had to change the TalkBox, make it mobile, and bring TalkBoxers to the front of the stage.
Baby, let me dance with you. Wow, wow, wow. Don't leave me, girl. Please stay with me tonight.
This is, I need this for the album.
With the traditional TalkBox, you have a synthesizer that you connect to an amp, that you connect to a speaker, that goes through a tube, that goes into your mouth, which makes it hard to talk. Now, with the ElectroSpit mobile TalkBox, we've combined all of those pieces into one unit, no setup. You put it on and instantly you're funky.
Yeah, so it's basically kind of like a little headphone type thing that you put around your neck and it plugs into the app. And you don't need a tube or anything for the TalkBox. And that's
that's what we see now. It looks like just headphones, but that's what we see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so on the right is Ari Prohaska, who's the founder of AudioKit, and he worked with Bosco. They're out in the Bay Area. And then also, there's this playable placemat, which uses Bluetooth and conductive ink to allow you to put your phone, and I just have to show you the video because it's hard for me to describe. It's so amazing.
But so this is McDonald's.
Yes.
Think about all the accomplishments. I can see you watching me. Approach everyone positive, but if you can't forgive him, you're not the man.
Creating music can really trigger creativity in young people. That's why McDonald's in the Netherlands introduced Nu-Trix, a paper placemat turned into a full music production station. By the use of conductive ink on a piece of paper, we connected our placemat to your smartphone. Every touch point triggered a full sound bank to kickstart your creativity.
Let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go.
Just select the beat and you're good to go. Create your own sounds and melodies. Then you can tweak your track with any kind of effects. You can even record your own vocals.
To the menu, I can get you something too. Hey, my hidden beats, play what you say.
That's how you play the placemat.
That's so cool.
And this is how we challenge your talent by showing your music skills at McDonald's.
Yeah, so that's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
You know, it's not available in America because we can't have nice things. But the company that makes the printable paper, Novelia, you can actually make your own custom MIDI controllers with that and use AudioKit if you wanted to make your own type synth or projects. You know, you don't have to be McDonald's. You could just do it on your own and sell it now. So that's really cool technology.
So that's basically a printable paper that also has Bluetooth on it?
Yeah, so it's razor-thin Bluetooth in it. So, yeah, so it's basically like you make your own MIDI controller out of paper. And
this is crazy.
Yeah, this company, they also have like walls where like at South by Southwest, they have wallpaper where we could...
This is, it's really, I mean, I'm mind blown about this. I mean, I'm saying, you know, I'm imagining we could basically just create the layout you want and have that as a controller, and it's like paper thin. It's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, Georgia Tech was talking about doing it for class projects, and I mean, you could do that with your students. You could build a MIDI controller. And that's the cool thing about AudioKit and iOS devices is people can build instruments and they don't have to spend years and years engineering the hardware. They can offload that processing onto your iPhone and, you know, get the market really fast. You know, they could have the electrospit headphones or the piece of paper and then write all the code, and instead of having to solder and spend years learning how to be an electrical engineer. So like the iOS and iPhone is allowing people to really create physical instruments now, because almost everyone has a mobile device or has access to one, especially with like these like $300 iPhone SEs coming out, which are incredibly powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want people to think outside the box of just making apps, but think about like what you can do in the real world with hardware, and then offload that processing onto the phone. So
Yeah,
cool.
because right now the smartphone is really powerful. So
yeah, and so here's an example of this 14-year-old who made a microtonal app. I mean, a lot of people are going outside of scales in Western 12-tone cultures. This is cool. His name's Shawshank. Seems like a really cool dude. And then we've been also working on voice activation, which we think is going to be the future. So there's a little thing about that.
Hey, metronome, set tempo to 100 beats per minute. You got the groove.
So, it's one of those things like, in the future, like it might not be, that's a pretty cheesy, simple example, but in the future, you may just be sitting behind the console and be like, show me like all my like beats that are like, have like a 70s funk, drum vibe, as a producer, and you might be voice activation along with VR and AI might be just like one piece of the puzzle. So that's something for people to think about of where that's going to go in the future. It may not all be there now, but certainly it's a big component of virtual reality and augmented reality voice recognition and hands-free music making.
especially when musicians usually use their hands on an instrument, so having hands-free is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And something else, people are using. Here's another example of hardware with the software offloaded. This is an instrument for people with autism, and some disabled students are able to make music. And they have this hardware that's soft, like the human skin, and they can play it, and then they offload the processing onto the phone, which makes it easy for them to get this to market and keeps it affordable. Here's an example of it. So by offloading the processing to the phone, they can get the market in a matter of months instead of years. So that's just another example of hardware combined with iOS to build something beautiful and allows music making for everyone. And another really hot topic right now is augmented reality. And this was actually made by my neighbor down the street. His name's Daniel Kuntz, he was a Georgia Tech student who dropped out because he was doing so well making apps. And he actually got started with AudioKit, and he's moved beyond AudioKit now. But here's a little app he made, which some people may have seen. You can take any piano and then show the sheet music on it. So it's kind of like a cool tool like that. And of course, that's pretty simple, but think about 5 years from now where things are going. So people in school now, like this might be a really good industry to get into, like because there's going to be jobs in this segment. So just think about like voice activation, augmented reality, where you want to take that in the future. And I think that's really where the market may shift, maybe 10 years from now. There's no iPad interface. It's all virtual. Who knows?
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, and also down the street from me is my friend Tinny, who's, he needs no introduction to those who watch YouTube and know about iOS music. But
I follow him online.
Yeah, he's super cool. You should have him on the show. He just was Grammy nominated this year for Best Hip Hop Album Production, and it was from something he made completely in his iPad and recorded it. And so I actually have footage of him recording that here. He recorded this in his car driving around Atlanta. There we go.
A lot of people have been asking me just how far you can get making music on the iPad. Well, today I'm about to show you. I got some friends along with me, and they're gonna jump in the ride, literally. Let's go.
Am I plugging into that?
Yeah. Ain't no future in your frontin'. I'm gonna show you the real.
The business.
If you caught that, that was the same beat in that J. Cole song that was Grammy nominated.
That's really cool.
Is that crazy?
That's what I'm telling people when they don't believe in iPad music. They say it's just a toy. No, it's just like anything. If you use it well, you can create whatever you want with it.
It's absolutely true. And I think if for those who follow him on YouTube, you can see he has a new video where he shows, a newer video where he shows like the Cubasis project. So after he got home from the car, he loaded all that into an iOS DAW and then sent the stems off. So iOS was using a lot of the process. Stop with the PowerPoint. I'm sure it's boring people by now, but that's a little something about what we're doing.
But it's fun because you see the kind of the wide range of software that exists on the iPad, but also kind of the approach, because there's, like I said earlier, when we think about tools, there's always a mindset behind when we do it, So for the users is to understand what was the mindset and what was the goal, and then it's better to use. It's easier to use. In your case, Synth One, the way you explained it, it's you basically made it to understand how to make it, and it was a blast, and people still love it because it works, sounds good, and it's a full synthesizer, and people were surprised of the quality of the sound for something free, because we were used to say, well, if it's free, it's a little bit clunky and it works bizarre and it's not fully complete, or it's half there and then you need to pay for unlocking the normal features.
Yeah, speaking to what you just said, it's amazing. And I think just because something is free doesn't mean it has to be crap. So that goes for anything people are putting out, whether it's like a sample pack or free music. Do the best you can. Just because it's free doesn't mean you shouldn't put the effort in. And that's the whole thing with the app. It's like when I was making crappy stuff, no one asked why it was free. But all of a sudden when you make something good, people are like, oh, you have to charge for that just because it's good. But I still think you should hold on to your original mission. And that was with Synth One. It just got good. And we didn't just say oh, we need to cash in. We gave it away. And that generosity has brought so much good to the world. We have so many wonderful stories about people making music and bringing joy to their life because of it. So, yeah. Do the best you can no matter what, and it'll pay off. And because of that, I've been able to go places like Abbey Road and travel around the country and meet all these wonderful people. And so I feel really blessed. All the generosity that I've given has come back to me. So the same will happen for everyone else if you do a great job, no matter what you're doing, whether it's free or paid.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, when you give away something, it has to be of value. If not, you're not giving away. You're just throwing stuff around.
Good analogy.
That's it. I mean, if you give something, you don't give crap. You give something that is good. If not, you don't give it. You just,
I get it.
So, but I really enjoy your apps. I find them well made. They work well, and I'm again curious about the next one. What's going to be the next? Is it going to be free? Is it going to be a limited edition? What's going to be? So I'm curious.
Well, Our next limited edition one will be free, but I don't know if that's coming out before the one with Henny. So that's going to be less than $5, but it's really sounds really great. But we definitely have a free one coming out really, really soon. So
that's another thing you just said, less than $5. You know, I find it amazing the quality we can have on the iPad and the iOS, the iPhone, and all that stuff for so little. You know, for in some case, the price of a coffee. You know,
yeah.
and you, I mean, the same plugin would be sold on Mac, and it would be, you know, at least almost 10 times the price.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Chris Randall from Audio Damage, he just recently spoke at the Audio Developer Conference in London, and he mentioned that. So he charges 8 times the price on desktop as he does on iPhone. But 50% of his revenue comes from iPhone. So it's like an 8-to-1 price, but he sells 8 times as many on the iPhone. So he's still able to make money. And you see some people, they try to charge a lot on the iPhone, but they actually end up making less money. And
but they sell less copies.
Yeah, exactly. And I've actually gotten into some arguments with some of these people. I'm not an argumentative guy, but here's my philosophy. Like, there's a few things I think all developers want. 1, they want to create beautiful sounding instruments. 2, they want a lot of musicians to use them. And they also kind of want to pay the bills. So if you want a lot of musicians to use it and you want to pay the bills, charge less. But then some people are so kind of like egotistical. They're like, oh, my work is valued at $50. But they sell a lot less, so they're actually not making as much. So I don't know. So like we charge less, and hopefully, I mean, even if we don't make as much, we're able to get it out to more musicians and bring more joy to people. So
for what I understand today, we need to thank you, because all of these apps that exist today, a lot of them are there now because you released these codes and you helped the entire community to be able to come up with new apps. So it's we owe you a great deal of a thank you for that. So it's really different because of the mission, and this is, I think it's a good thing that people understand where you stand and what you're bringing to the table, which is a beautiful thing. So keep doing it, man.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. I love your videos. Watch everyone.
Thank you. So
thank you.
Also, for the people who attended the live show, well, thank you for being there. That's it.
Thank you.